Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and this is my brutally honest review for Pragmata. Now, as I record this, I have just finished the game. In fact, about 30 minutes ago, I finished killing the last boss. And I have some thoughts, both good and bad. But just right off the cuff, I want to say that going into this after the years of hype and trailers and expectations, and the fact that this is such a strange experimental Capcom project, the things that are just at the tip of my mind is that this game is way more fun than I thought it was going to be. In fact, I think this might be one of the most interesting gameplay loops I've played in many, many years. The fact that we're doing combat against giant mechanized monsters, but with the entire controller, shooting, dodging, hacking, all simultaneously. All of that is great, but this is a game that is both very short and the story itself is not exactly the best. It has good moments, but this is the kind of game that I feel like you're buying it because you want to fight against cool giant beasties in space. Let's talk about the goods and the bads, because as a mega fan of weird experimental projects, there's something about this that feels unique, even among other unique games. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like. This gets a couple thousand likes, definitely helps it in the algorithm. But let's start with what Pragmata is. So in Pragmata, we're playing as this guy called Hugh. He's essentially like a repairman, an engineer who's sent into space to go to this moon base. And his job here is to try and fix some sort of missing relays. Essentially, they've stopped replying to calls. When he cruises up, it seems like everybody's missing. The entire space station is completely vacant. Now, what makes this moon base so incredibly unique is that a couple years before the start of the game, they discovered this new mysterious element. They figured out that they could refine basically moon dust and make this stuff called lunar filament. Now, lunar filament allows you to basically 3D print anything, literally anything, from trees to entire cities to cars to robots. I mean, you can literally, anything you can think of and map out is able to be 3D printed. It's sort of this like universal isotope, but they're not sure if there's any ramifications of this yet. So even though you could just theoretically print an entire village or build an entire car factory and stuff, they're not doing that yet on Earth. This moon base exists purely to make sure there's like a special safe spot to be 3D printing everything. But when you get here, there's an AI that's in charge of everything. It basically makes sure that everybody that lives there, all the humans and stuff, they would ask and work together with all these bots. Hey, do this. Hey, build that. Hey, construct this. And so the people that live there, the employees, loved it. There's tons of audio logs and notes. Everybody absolutely loved this job because they felt like these like imagination technicians. They literally, anything they could come up with was actually buildable, and it was a really cool fantasy. But at the same time, they almost felt a bit useless because while this was so instantaneous, it almost took out that gratification of a project. You no longer had to build and test and fail. It literally was just press a button, autocomplete. Well, as Hugh gets here, he starts rolling up, and suddenly he realizes that everything has gone haywire. It seems like the AI that runs this place, something has gone terribly wrong. And basically, all the robots, all the helper bots, the people that do stuff like all the engineering and maintenance and stuff, everybody has gone ballistic. So what you have to do is try and fight your way through it. The whole game is basically, you get access to a tram car, and you're basically going from station to station, trying to do different tasks. Hook up this internet, fix this, get a different relay going, right? It's a lot of very tiny chores that build towards like this big goal of basically calling Earth and hopefully getting rescued. But what makes it better is that Hugh is not just here technically by himself. He has somebody sort of with him. I guess it's sort of your definition of somebody, but he has a creature called the Pragmata. Now, Pragmata are different than typical AI in this universe. Essentially, AI are connected to giant networks. They're all seeing all giant super brains, right? Whereas the Pragmata, these are standalone units. They're very rare, and basically it's an AI purely in a single human body. And so because of it, you team up with one called Diana. Now, it looks like a little kid, but she is able to do quite a bit, from hacking to helping you set up different stuff, to help you with a lot of different tasks and even mapping and setting things up, right? But Diana is not just a passenger in this adventure. She actually is the other part of the incredibly fun gameplay. Throughout the course of Pragmata, you fight against a bunch of different styles of flying robot and big charging people and dudes with laser swords and like ninjas and stuff, and everybody has a very different style of attacking and weaknesses, and it also comes down to the fact that, so when you're trying to fight, Hugh has an infinite ammo gun. It basically 3D prints more ammunition, so you can fire a couple bullets, usually 6 to 7 until you upgrade it more, and so you start off being able to just take a couple shots, but a lot of these guys, of course, they're giant robots. A couple bullets doesn't do much. You got to shoot all their vital components, and that's where Diana comes in. So whenever you're playing this, whenever you target one of the enemies by pulling the trigger, the face buttons control this little mini game where basically you're charting a path to hit their weak points. Now, hacking them does damage as well, but by completing these puzzles, it opens up all their core and stuff. It basically lets you hit them for a lot more damage. Now, this mechanic is incredibly fun because the more you play the game, the deeper into it you go. You start to encounter all sorts of people that have much more complicated puzzles, much more intricate weak points, and weapons all over the place. Now, you have that default gun that has like infinite ammo, but across the ground, you'll find like charged railguns, super shotguns, things that let you stun enemies. There's actually totally different weapon categories. There's basically ones that are raw damage, stun, and decoys. So there's like basically these defensive abilities as well. And I like the fact that not only is there the puzzle to that like pipe dream style hacking system, but there's a lot of times in an environment where you can do really funny stuff. Like in one of them, you go through this part of the factory that exists on the planet to basically break stuff back down into its lunar filament components. Basically, you know, all the failed 3D printed stuff, it basically gives you an option to like delete that stuff. You can lure all of these robots in certain rooms. You can lure them into like the 3D printer deleter and just vaporize them down to literally like moon dust. And it just looks so cool. And it's very satisfying because some of these robots are very hard. It feels kind of cathartic to just vaporize them. But I also like the fact that each of the different weapons has different uses, but the stuff you pick up off the ground doesn't really have ammo. But what I mean is that they don't reload. If you pick up a shotgun and it's got 5 bullets in it, you can't just keep like reloading it. Basically, you fire those 5 bullets and then it's out. You got to pick up a new one. So it makes it where you're always having to keep picking up weapons, but you're definitely going to have ones that end up being your favorites. I mean, this is the kind of game where even though there is a lot of freedom to it, I like the fact that your playstyle really shines through. You can go much more hacking centric. You can actually go back to base and upgrade either your damage, your defense, or your hacking to basically say, okay, do I want to be more of a tank? Do I want to be more of a sniper and pistol blast people to hell? Or later you get an assault rifle, but you can also just upgrade your hacking so you have extra nodes, basically more special abilities where hacking one person actually will chain shock everybody around them, or particular nodes will appear. You basically can get like ammunition for your hacking, which will do even more damage whenever you hit those nodes during the puzzles. I like the fact that there is this very free-form sense to the combat, but this does bring me to something that personally did really annoy me. So this game has almost 0 healing points, and I'm dead serious about that. Each of the entire sections typically has about maybe 1, if you're lucky, and usually they're pretty hidden. So essentially what this means is that you basically get 1 set of healing packs every hour and a half. Now, this isn't the biggest deal because whenever you die, as you're progressing through each of these major zones, you're constantly unlocking new fast travel points. And at any point, you can just go back to base, the shelter as they call it. You can jump down any of these tram things. It's called an emergency exit. It'll take you back to base, and you can even return to that emergency exit, which makes it where you can always literally just go and upgrade or take a break or come back. And whenever you go there, it does refill your, like, basically your first aid kits and stuff. So I like that, but it does feel like this game feels like it's trying to kill you with unfairness sometimes, where you slowly get worn down because you can't just heal when you need it. It feels like, honestly, the heals feel way too sparse, especially if you're trying to play this on the highest difficulty. I didn't like the fact that it does feel like it's trying to just be overly hard to force you to go back to the shelter. Whenever you die, you appear in the shelter, you have to tram back and stuff, and it usually respawns every enemy in the map, but it's not that big of a pain, but there are so many of those emergency exits that usually, even if you do die, you're usually within like 2 rooms of where you were. But this does bring me to the boss fights. Now, I'm not going to show you the spoiler ones, but I do think that just in general, I like a lot of the bosses because they're just like much more technical big bosses where you do have to think about dodging, hacking, and just smashing boxes and grabbing weapons off the ground. It did really feel like each of the bosses almost feels like that nice reward at the end of a dungeon that says, okay, here's all the different skills you've learned, here's all the platforming, here's all the advanced mechanics, now do that combined. And I think it is very, very effective that when these bosses die, because they can be surprisingly hard, especially towards the end of the game, I like the fact that when you win, it really feels like you won, and I like that. I also like the fact that there's just so many different styles of weapon and so many different styles of like hack and mod chips. Whenever you go back to the base, you can actually install different chips that make it where I take less damage while I'm shooting, or hey, if I hack somebody, it can stun them. I like the fact that there's so much customization and unlockability that I think is going to make those extra runs feel even better. I think there's going to be definitely like videos on YouTube that are like best mods to find early, and I kind of like the fact when there's like a hidden strategy to a game. It feels like there's this extra reward for taking the wrong path. But I want to talk a bit more about the story and about definitely the not so hidden meaning to this, right? So something that exists in this game a lot is definitely a statement about AI, generative AI, meaning not just artificial intelligence, but the idea of, hey, what happens when you press a button and something appears, right? Is that good? Is that bad? And I feel like this takes an interesting stance that I feel like I do agree with, right? I am a big believer in people make art, right? A good picture or a bad picture, a good game or a bad game, I like to see passion. I want to see something weird and unique, and you made it, right? That's how I feel. And it feels like Capcom is trying to say that. Throughout this world, because everything can just be printed, it's not exactly what the people think about. Now that there's no people around, the AI just keeps printing stuff. IDUS, the like AI that runs the station, seems to have just printed and printed and printed. So in certain areas, you start to see weird stuff that doesn't make sense, like a version of New York, but everything's kind of layered on top of each other. Like you'll see cars inside of the pavement, or like weird skyscrapers that are all bent and wonky, or just billboards up on the ceiling, fences coming out of gates and stuff like that. When you go to bioresearch, there's all sorts of like botanical gardens. They're all very much run amok, just literally zigzagging and toxifying themselves. And I like the fact that there's something about this game that I think is extremely good, which is I think it shows the fact that AI does need people. This AI is not able to run the entire facility without that human touch. It thinks it can, but it's like a lot of AI feels like it's trying to just hit the predicted outcome. It doesn't really know what you're trying to do. It tries to guess what the outcome is. Oh, you want a car? Here's 800 cars. Oh, you're trying to build a city? Here's 800 cities. Now, a lot of people don't like AI. Obviously, there's a lot of books written about how if anybody builds it, everybody dies. I feel like this is an interesting statement about how I think it just shows that fine line where even if people are happy with AI, I just don't think it's a tool that in the long run, especially in art, is really going to be as useful as people think. That's what I kind of felt like was taken about this game, and I like that statement. I think it's an interesting one, but I feel like the story doesn't really convey it that well. It's like a subtle environmental thing, but Diana is also a computer, and she's just super helping out, and she's a great companion. But also, I gotta say, one of my gripes about this is that Diana is an AI. She's a computer straight up, but she acts so much like a little kid, and Hugh just instantly accepts her. He doesn't question it. He doesn't think about why is there this like AI pretending to be a little kid. She like plays on toys and asks questions about Earth. There's something that's just kind of odd about their companionship that was just odd to me. I feel like the heartfelt moments do hit when they're talking about visiting Earth and watching a sunset. It is very emotionally impactful. I think the actors and the writing themselves are good, but I feel like a lot of these moments, I wish Hugh asked more questions about what Diana is, what she's feeling, how she sees these circumstances. It's very much just Hugh feeding her information, talking about his childhood and childhood dinners and the importance of a nice family meal, or like talking about how New York is smelly, but that's because humans are kind of a messy species. These are really good lines that I feel like contrast all the notes and stuff you find in the world that are so interesting. But I feel like Diana as a written character didn't seem like you wanted to engage with the grander scale of such an interesting part of this story. It just feels like the game is doing like a big half measure where it wants to be a fun game and it wants to have a cool story, but it doesn't really exactly know if it has a point to make. Overall, though, even with my gripes about how short it is and how, well, tonally inconsistent the story can be, I just feel like Pragmata is such a dang fun game. I mean, straight up, I have been platinuming a lot of games this year. I really love doing everything I can. Playing this on PlayStation 5 Pro was such a freaking treat. I do think I want to try and do a very, very hard mode run. Typically, when I'm trying to platinum something, usually I do the hardest difficulty and knock that out. And if I can do that, all the other trophies are pretty easy. This is the kind of game where it is so fun. I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to jump on that struggle bus. Take me in. Let me see if I can even possibly survive one of these biomes. Okay, we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go over to the ratings board, put a big number on it. I am giving Pragmata an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. And also, let me know how you feel about current state of Capcom, because I gotta be like, man, these guys are just killing it. Thank you for watching. You rock, and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.